Hey, this is Erica from Ever Educating, and this channel is teaching tips, tools, ideas, and resources for new college instructors. We're now at 9 weeks into this series where I've done one major assignment per week for the past 2 months. There's 1 month more to go. At this point, if you want to be talking to me one-on-one about your lesson planning or your ideas for teaching college courses, I do have the one-on-one creative confidence calls. I'll link that below in case you want to see my availability. If you're someone who wants to ask me a question and have me answer it in a live stream, I have a form for that too. That'll link below as well. But in today's video, I want to talk about something that you might think is like, oh, well, that's only for education courses. But I would disagree, right? And so the assignment is a lesson plan. Having students create a lesson plan for, your course. So this can happen in different ways. So for example, if you're teaching, let's say, a physics course, and your students aren't future educators. It's not like education majors. It's just people who are majoring in physics potentially. In this case, you can have them say, all right, I want you to be able to plan a lesson on one of the major concepts in this course. I'm teaching it one way, but I want you to critically think about how would you want to teach this concept to someone else. So you might give them a specific target audience. You might say, okay, we're in, a year 4 physics course, but I want you to create a lesson plan for a freshman physics course, right? Here is the situation. It is Physics 101. Here's the basic outline of this course, the major concepts in it. Each student in this course is going to pick one of these concepts, and you're going to design a lesson about that concept. So they have to think about, okay, well, who's my target audience? Freshmen, right? Are they all physics majors, or is this a gen ed course, right? Okay, knowing all that, how would I go about teaching this concept to freshmen, college freshmen? And so you might give them certain elements that they need to have in a lesson plan. So you're gonna have to tell me, how much time, right? Give me an agenda. Is this a 1 class lesson that it's gonna be 50 minutes because that's how long the Monday, Wednesday, Friday course is for each class lesson? Okay, now tell me how you're breaking up those 15 minutes. Are you doing a 10-minute brain awakening warm up and then a 30-minute lecture and then a 10-minute wrap up? Or are you doing a small group activity? Are you doing whatever the case may be, right? So you're gonna have to describe, right? How would you teach this concept in this 50-minute class period? And so in this case, you're getting students to critically think about, okay, well, I'm gonna prove that I understand this concept because I'm designing how to teach it to somebody else. And even another layer is I have to think about my target audience, so I have to tweak my knowledge to make it understandable to a freshman, even though I'm a senior. I'm an advanced student in this course. You might have students think about, okay, well, you're gonna describe your lesson plan, but you also have to give me maybe a bibliography, right? What are they gonna be reading, okay? What are you gonna show them a PowerPoint? You don't have to necessarily have them curate the PowerPoint, but maybe you want to. It depends on how in-depth you want this assignment to be. But the basic concept here is to have students show their understanding of a concept in your course by having them illustrate how they would teach it to someone else. Now, you might decide to tweak how this goes in the sense of maybe it's a paired assignment. So rather than just an individual, maybe you only have, 8 concepts, but you have 16 students in your course. Well, in that case, you might decide, okay, it's 2 concepts per person, 2 people per concept, or you might decide to pair them up instead and have them work on it together. I definitely think there's benefits to this. This is not an assignment that I specifically gave to my students, but I did have a few of my students choose this genre when they had an open-ended project where I'm like, okay, I need you to prove, right, that you have an understanding of this class concept. It's up to you to decide what genre you're going to use to prove this to me. And I had some future educators who decided to do a lesson plan to show their knowledge. And I thought it was a really great idea. So obviously, pros and cons. Pros, definitely, if you're teaching future educators, having them practice creating a lesson plan obviously makes a lot of sense. Other pros is I do think it's more of a creative project versus, let's say, an 8-page paper about this concept, so it might interest students more. I also think as a pro, it gives students insight into how potentially complex and how much it takes to plan lessons. So they might give you, a new appreciation for you for the work that it takes to lesson plan a course. It also gives them a great sense of the importance of their target when they are writing something or creating something. Because a lot of students are like, okay, I'm writing a paper, but it's for my professor. Well, in this case, no, your target audience is potentially college freshmen, right? So you really have to think about your language, about your formatting, about your approach very carefully because of the target audience of the assignment. So I think it leads to a level of critical thinking that often isn't the case when you're just having them turn in a paper, for example. Some cons, obviously, if they're not future educators, they might be like, why am I have to create a lesson plan? This makes no sense, right? It doesn't apply to me. So you do have to, work into that buy-in, explain the reason for this particular design of the assignment, the benefits to them, for example. Other cons is you might have some who go really in depth into creating a lesson plan and some who create something very basic. So it can potentially be hard to grade, to assess. So in this case, I do think it'd be helpful to have very specific structure of the assignment instructions. So your lesson plan should have A, B, C, D, E in it. Here's a description of what each of these things are, and have a discussion about the level of robustness that you expect from your students. Maybe you'll have a mentor example for them to go on. So pros and cons. I definitely think it could be worth a try though, so I did want to share it on here during this series. As far as follow-up goes, depending, maybe you have all right, well, I'm teaching a freshman course, right, in physics as well as this one. Extra credit, you can come in and be a guest speaker, a guest lecturer, and lead a portion of the lesson plan that you have designed for me, right? So this can potentially be a really interesting follow-up for extra credit. I wouldn't say make it part of the main assignment, but you might have some students who want to do it because, again, they plan on being educators or they want to practice their public speaking. They just want the extra points. So that could potentially be one aspect of follow-up. Another is to actually discuss, hey, I noticed of, the 16 of you, 10 of you designed lectures, right? But you're always telling me that you want less lectures and more small group activities, right? So kind of potentially have discussions on, pedagogy, on how to make sure, you're engaged, right? A lot of you didn't really apply what you're telling me about the approaches that you particularly enjoy. Why was that? So I think it can be a really interesting follow-up discussion based off of the patterns that you see in the lesson plans. So something to potentially give a try. Again, I have 8 other videos already in this series. I'll link them below. And if you want to meet with me one-on-one, I have that link below too for the Creative Confidence Cause, or you can submit a question for me to answer on a live stream. If you enjoyed this video, click like and let me know, and subscribe if you want to miss out on future content. I'll see you next time.